Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. It is hour number 2, and we're having a blast. I promised at the beginning of the show we had a very special wave that came in. You know we count waves here, Joe?
I was tempted to wave as I walked in to see if it would count.
It would count. Everything's very
really?
good.
Right.
Yeah. So we had one recently from the Philippines. I think I told you where someone watched Fridays with Phil in the Philippines.
Yes.
We've got one with pictures, and we'll add the wave right now on the bottom of the screen. This is exciting. We have our first ever and probably last ever wave from Egypt.
What?
Elisa. You remember Elisa from the show? Elisa, and here we go. Sylvia, her foreign exchange student that they got so close together. Everybody was wondering how Sylvia was doing. Well, they took a trip to Egypt. They're there now, and she sent a wave in all the way from there. You can find out more about their that really special bond that they have, world-heritage.org, and that's a student exchange program. So thank you for that. Wasn't that cool?
Wow.
Frankly speaking, international, Joe.
Egypt, Philippines. So we've got North America. Mm-hmm. We've got the greater Asian area.
Uh-huh.
You know, the Philippines is an island nation, but it's in the Asian sphere.
Sure.
You've got now Africa. And so
What's
we
next?
got to get some Europe. We got to get some South America. And then...
Musk and the Mars.
We'll go to Mars. It gets some Australia. How are we going to do Antarctica? Can we...
We got to start reaching out, folks.
Polar expedition.
There's got to be somebody out there that has
We got to get every continent. We've got to get interplanetary, intergalactic. We're taking it to every level.
Going everywhere. So pretty excited. Well, let's start off with some comments, which are brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund. Mark writes in, glad to see how Elise Stefanik has a clear path to run for New York State governor. I know we're going to talk about that in a moment. Does anyone think Maxwell will tell the truth, or will she get a reduced sentence for the Democrats if she puts down Trump? I don't want to talk too much about that, Joe, but we got to a little bit. And now here's one for you. Good morning, Frank and Joe. Well, good morning to you. I have a question for Joe about geoengineering. I know Florida has passed a law making it a crime to manipulate weather. Marjorie Taylor Greene has introduced a bill called Blue Sky to stop geoengineering at the federal level. Has there been any New York State support in Albany to stop geoengineering in the state?
Yeah. There is a bill. There's a Republican bill. If I remember correctly, because we do a lot of bills, I want to say Mr. DiPietro from the East Aurora area. He's got South Towns outside of Buffalo and Wyoming County. And he had a bill in that area, and it was a bill that ended up getting blocked in committee.
Okay.
And I voted not to. So what'll happen is we can force a vote in committee under Assembly rules, and the way that the majority deals with having to hold a vote is they'll do a vote to hold, which is it's saying, we'll just look at it later. As opposed to voting up or down, that's what we're asking for. Is if you don't like it, vote no, vote up, vote down. But they'll say, hold, and that's their excuse. And that was one of the bills that Dave forced a vote on, and it was held in committee. I voted against holding it in committee. I thought it deserved a vote. So there is at least one bill that was discussed in that area.
I like that term because now when I put off doing chores, I'm just going to say it's
on hold.
It's on hold. When the boss says, hey, have you done that yet? I'm going to say it's on hold.
I mean, it's frustrating because we have bills that are really, I had a bill that was... It was a bill that it was originally written by my predecessor, Mr. Gillio, but I now proudly carry it, that if you commit domestic violence in front of a child,
we talked about this on the show.
That it should be, enhanced crime, enhanced penalties, and that's because all research, all studies show that, if you're assaulting somebody, that's a crime in and of itself. Yeah. But if you're doing it in front of a child, now you're traumatizing that child for life. Mm-hmm. And so I thought that deserved a substantive vote, and I certainly have other bills that I thought deserved substantive vote, but in many cases those are procedurally dealt with by our colleagues in the Democrat supermajority in the New York State Assembly.
We talk about that so often. And Mark wrote in, and let's talk about Epstein first. Let's get this out of the way because we haven't talked. No one talked about this for so many years. Now Democrats, this is their biggest issue. They see it as a weapon against Trump. Yeah,
clearly, that everybody's got sort of some gamesmanship around this guy. My mantra has always been, and this isn't Epstein specific, it's just how I look at things, is, I'm in favor of transparency. Sure. And I think that certainly considering what he has been accused of and what his procurer has been convicted of,
Right.
and all of the swirling questions around it, I think we need to get to transparency in some way, shape, or form. I haven't talked to the Speaker of the House. I haven't talked to the President regarding their thoughts around it, but I would imagine there is some level of, hey, we got to make sure we protect the victims, right? If there's salacious material in there, you don't want somebody re-victimized by that being released in some way. And then also, if somebody is, there's a difference between you once met somebody and
That's
you
the
are,
problem I have.
So you, for instance, if there's a grand jury investigation into Frank Acomb and they don't find something that should be indictable, those are sealed because you don't want you're not being accused.
Right.
Now, clearly, there's a lot of people who must, just by definition, there must be a lot of people that must have committed a lot of crimes with and around Jeffrey Epstein. And I think where people are very frustrated, especially in the Republican base, is there's been no transparency and no accountability for those people who must be out there and must have victimized minors. And we want those people to be held accountable. We also don't want Epstein to be used as a cudgel, to attack people of some political persuasion. So we have to make sure that those are dealt with appropriately. But yeah, I'm in favor of transparency. I'm in favor of accountability. If people have committed crimes against children, they should be absolutely held accountable. My suspicion is that the president himself is innocent, and the reasoning I have is the reasoning that he has presented, and I think is sound, is if there was, this is a guy that was indicted on 14 felonies for misfiling a expense in his business. If there was him personally committing crimes against children of the most offensive nature, that would have been used and against him, that would have come out to this point. So I strongly suspect that anybody that is accusing Donald Trump of being personally involved in some sort of crime of this nature is that's not something that happened. But there had to be people, Epstein wasn't hanging out on an island by himself.
Right.
There had to be other people involved, and by all indications, there probably are powerful people that were involved, and they should be held accountable, no matter who they are.
And I totally agree, but I think if any names are released, it's instantly guilt. They're guilty.
Right.
So let's say someone gets invited to go to Epstein's Island, and they say to their buddy, we can go into this island, this is a great thing. That guy might not have any idea who Epstein even is, but he's like, I'll take a free vacation. Next you know, his name's being thrown around. What if that person also happens to be a big business leader, and he's like, what happened there is horrific, I don't ever want to be a part of it. Now it's like it's really, you have to go over it with a fine-tooth comb.
It's like any sort of crime where you have somebody who clearly was a despicable human being, and clearly had people that were involved in the horrific crimes he was involved in, and there must be transparency and accountability for those people. But because the crimes are so horrific, you also don't want to attack the good name of somebody who if somebody truly was innocent and was not involved in criminality, you don't want that because you can't. Where do you go to get your good name back if suddenly you've been associated with somebody like this? So that is a tricky thing, but it's a tricky thing that, frankly, law enforcement and good journalists and whatever deal with every day, which is, journalists has to determine whether something's newsworthy or not newsworthy. A prosecutor has to determine whether somebody should be indicted or not indicted or what have you, or what crimes should be they charged with. And we can do that. We as a society for thousands of years have done that, which is hold criminals accountable for horrific activity. If you committed a crime against a child, no matter how powerful you are, you should be held accountable to the full extent and the maximum penalty of the law. If you did not, you shouldn't have your good name attacked.
Exactly. I think at the end of the day, it became such a big issue, and I full disclaimer, I think Pam Bondi's doing a wonderful job. PR-wise, this just did not go well.
That is certainly the case.
Yes. And it's not to knock her. Listen, this is a very unique case. But the whole phase one with the all of that really, I get it at the time. Boy, it doesn't hold up well.
Yes, I would certainly concur in that, and it a lot of time that's why transparency isn't just X person committed X crime. Transparency is, hey, this is how we're going to handle this. Be clear. Hey, this is what we have. This is what we don't have. This is what we got to go looking for. This is how long it's going to take. And that is part of transparency too. And that's where I think there was sort of a mishandling of the, sort of the phase one of the binders and what have you is, she's saying things like, oh, it's just sitting on my desk. Well, if it's just sitting on my desk, well, then why didn't it come out much sooner? These sort of things. And clearly there's something more as far as having to suss out legalities and what information is there. What's the chain of custody of that information? How accurate is it?
Well, that's a great point, too.
And those sort of things. So, my twin goals are guilty people should be convicted of crimes and punished in a very severe way, and innocent people should be protected, and we have to be very rigorous in sussing out the two, and no one who is guilty should be not held accountable simply because of their wealth or their position, and nobody that is innocent should be besmirched simply because of their wealth or their position. That would be my sort of definition of justice. We want justice for everybody involved, and justice for minor children who were assaulted, and so no fear or favor should be on any of this. Guilty, the innocent should be treated as innocent, and the guilty should be treated as guilty.
You always take up some controversial positions.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Guilty people should be punished, and innocent people shouldn't. Yeah, that's a bold statement.
Bold statement, Mr. Assemblyman.
Yeah.
But this does give the media a great excuse not to report on Gabbard's bombshell. This information is really interesting. And I know we will learn more. There's a lot of questions still. We've got a long way on this journey, but you can't find it anywhere about conservative outlets.
Well, this just tied the two together. And I mentioned, some of the charges that were brought against the president regarding how he classified funds within a privately held corporation, which I don't know how that becomes 14 felonies or what have you. It's been very clear for a very long time that the so-called Russia thing was very greatly enhanced and puffed up and what have you, and was sort of a false narrative from the jump. And you have to go through that much effort and work to create a dossier or create a narrative or create a story that somehow Vladimir Putin is doing X or Y or Z regarding Donald Trump. If you got to create all that, which is all sort of confusing all around for the average person, you probably don't have a real smoking gun like you might have if he was truly involved in nefariousness personally with Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah.
Well, and
to be clear, I think there's probably powerful people that were involved with Jeffrey Epstein. I just don't believe Donald John Trump was one of them.
No, because they even
for that very specific reason.
Yeah, they had following on a long time ago.
Right.
Well, let's take a break. I don't want to run too late because we got a lot of questions coming in for you, Joe. As we always do, stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horse. That's a beautiful view.
Beautiful day in the Crystal City.
Yeah, as the sheriff says, it's always a beautiful day in Steuben County. He was on yesterday.
Oh, Jim.
Yeah, Boss Security.
Long-time friend.
Yes, he was on yesterday. We had a great time, as we always do. So we got a lot of comments coming in during the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program. Good morning to you both. How much federal funding does New York State stand to lose if Hochul continues to be idiotic? and I think that was a biased way of putting that. And how would that loss of federal funding affect our taxes, et cetera?
Yeah, so there's a lot of discussion about this regarding, the big, beautiful bill. In this particular fiscal year, there's talk about $750 million.
Yeah.
Now, to put that in context, the state budget is over $250 billion. So, that's, over $250 billion would be $250 billion. We're a little above that. So, $750 million is, I don't have $750 million, but it's as far as a percentage of the state budget, not a gargantuan percentage. There's talk about larger amounts in out years going forward that we'd have to plan for in future budgets. So to put a little information on this, the state budget year runs from April 1st to March 31st. And so we're in the middle of the the year now. We're fairly still early in it, but we're not in the budget process. That will start for the next fiscal year when we go back into full session at the beginning of the next calendar year. So at the beginning of the calendar year, we sort of start the budget process in hopes of, and we were not even close this year, but in hopes of being done 3 months later at the end of March. Now, further context. Donald Trump, and in my opinion, correctly, has been very clear from day one about certain things in the federal budget need to be cut.
Yeah.
They're duplicative, they're overspending. My personal opinion is the amount of debt that we're carrying is an existential crisis for the United States. And so the president has been very clear about what his fiscal agenda is, his tax agenda, his spending agenda.
Very clear.
You don't have to sort of wonder what Donald Trump's going to do. He was very clear in the campaign. He won the popular vote. He won the electoral vote. He's the president of the United States, and he's executing his agenda. You can agree with his agenda. You cannot agree with his agenda. That's up to you out there in TV land. Right. But you can't say he hasn't been clear. And so one of the things that was pointed out during the budget process this late winter, early spring is, hey, Democrats in New York, if you're concerned that the gravy train from Washington, which we can no longer afford to the same degree that we have been, is going to be curtailed to some degree, maybe that should be reflected in your budgeting.
Yeah, take it in mind. Just put it in mind.
Maybe freeze spending or maybe reduce spending, which we've, on the Republican side, have been calling for decades.
Yes.
And we didn't see any of that.
No.
So
I actually saw the opposite.
Exactly. That's right. Exactly, Frank. We saw the exact opposite. So for then, a couple months later, Kathy Hochul to be like, I had no idea that there would be less federal spending. Oh, my goodness. That is ridiculous. Everybody has known that there is a new sheriff in town in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
If you've been living under a rock, you know there's a new sheriff in town in Washington, D.C. And to then continue to tax and spend as you have been and then suddenly yell about it later, that just does not ring true. So at the moment, there's rumor, but there's talk about maybe coming back into session to do some additions and tweaks to the budget. It looks like we're probably not at this point, but of course the governor has the discretion to call the legislature back into session when she sees fit. Right. She has not done that as of yet, but I'd be happy to if we're called back session to return to Albany and make my points on the fiscal status of the state of New York, not only on this fine television program, but on the floor of the New York State Assembly, as I did during the last budget process.
Comment from a different viewer, and I don't think we have an answer for this. Why did New York only repave Route 415 in Riverside? The painted post section is and has been worse than a dirt road for years. What's the holdup or issue? That's a great question. I will do some more research for you on that because hitting that patch into the post, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like it'll jar your teeth. I
have driven up and down 415 my entire life as somebody that grew up in the town of Irwin, and I'm very familiar with that road. But as far as the exact scheduling of DOT paving projects, I would either reach out to the DOT or my dear friend Phil Palmisano represents that area in the Assembly, and my dear friend Senator O'Mara represents that area in the State Senate, and I would think that you might be able to get some answers on scheduling. Oftentimes it has to do with some particular availability of a vendor or some other schedule of things that are going on. But my dear friends and colleagues in the state legislature might be able to get you more particular information on that particular project because that lies in their while it is near to where I grew up. Yes, it is my buddy Phil in the Assembly for that area.
But it's definitely a great question. All right, comment from a different viewer. Hello, Joe. Could you shed some light on the DEC? It seems like there is some internal confusion with the licensing system. I talked to my town clerk, and they're frustrated to say the least. I know if you're talking about the hunting licenses, that has been a nightmare because it went to the paper product. Yeah. And there's so many implications. I don't even think it's a rumor. I think it's the fact is that they lost the contract with the former paper maker that was like
I heard something about that. Yeah.
So now you've got a bunch of, in the past, if someone was trespassing, you can see their back tag. Right. Now there's no back tag.
Right.
Now someone wants to just hit print 100 times, you now have 100 buck tags.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, so it's really it's a nightmare. And I assume, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I'm assuming that's what they're talking about.
Yeah. I would say the DEC in general is something that people in our part of the world have to deal with more than other parts. That's one of the reasons why I specifically asked to be on the Environmental Conservation Committee. If you're in Manhattan, people deal with financial stuff with the state more. If you're in Steuben County, they deal with...
In Manhattan, they talk about farms.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 700 cows.
So they worry about cows in Manhattan.
Some of our friends down in the city think they understand agriculture, but whatever. That'd be the Ag and Markets Department. So another area where things interact in my district more. But anyway, I'm on the Environmental Conservation Committee, and it's for a variety of reasons, some of which is land use reasons, some of which is stream maintenance, flooding issues, which are a big deal, especially in the eastern side of my district, but also, hunting and sportsmanship regulation. So I would say, again, particular concerns, I would reach out to your particular legislative office if you have this specific thing, because it's not totally clear exactly, but this specific thing to a particular situation where the DEC has erroneously enforced some rule or what have you. If it's DEC sort of just broad policy, sort of like what you're talking about, how are we going to issue hunting licensure and those sort of things, I'm happy to take any criticisms and concerns to the DEC leadership. But I will say that anytime anything that has to do with how people are allowed to recreate themselves in as far as hunting is concerned happen to change or be considered to change, that is something that gets quite a lot of input into my office. And anything that is statutory, now if something is just a regulatory decision by the Department of Environmental Conservation, that may be, kind of like an executive order at the federal level, that may be within their ability. But if it is actual statute, that does go through the committee on which I serve. And so we've had bills regarding, where can you use a crossbow and where can you fish and what species are regulated by the DEC or not, or what have you. That all, the statutory, the actual letter of the New York State law does go through the committee on which I serve, and I'm always interested in input for people on what would be a better law or what would be a worse law, or how the law is affecting them. So you could have it's sort of three things. What is the law? What is the regulations being implemented to enforce that law by the DEC, which sometimes can be a little hinky, and then if somebody has a particular constituent case for their particular set of circumstances, those are all sort of three different layers of the same issue.
All right, we better take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Thanks for all the great questions. Keep them coming in. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And this is the Steuben County Office for the Aging section of our program, where we have interviews, and that's with Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. Joe, we got a lot of questions here. Let's go to a couple more viewer comments.
I'm just excited. There's so many different questions coming in.
I know, completely.
There's people on the other end of that camera.
There always are. How about this? Hello, Joe. Oh, no, this one we already read. I forgot to delete that one. Yeah, right. Is that New York State economy going to be benefiting from the current economic expansion that President Trump is responsible for? Has any business committed to bringing jobs back to New York State?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I would say this is something that is sadly the story of New York for a long time, based on the silly things that come out of Albany, where when the economy expands, do we benefit? Yeah. Do we benefit as much as we should? No, we do not.
Nope.
And when we hit the skids a little bit, we hit them a little harder. And sadly, while there's a lot of policy coming out of Washington now that have a pro-growth and pro-business element to them, and it seems that the president's strategy is to certainly go after spending, but also try and grow our way out of our debt crisis. In New York State, as I mentioned in the previous segment, we continue to tax and spend, and increasingly so in this country, you can do business anywhere. COVID taught us that.
Yep.
We can do a lot of things that via Zoom, especially if they're white collar type of businesses. And so it is very easy to say, well, wait a minute, I don't want to pay the tax rate for New York. I'm going to do it in Florida. I'm going to do that business in Tennessee. I'm going to do that business in North Carolina or Texas or whatever. And even, especially in the district I represent, in Pennsylvania. And I'm not saying Pennsylvania's doing as well as some of those other states I mentioned, but certainly in many cases they do better than New York. And if people just need to go into the northern tier, you see the results of less things happening here. And I think it's a corporate culture mindset within, if you think of the state of New York as a business, there's a bad corporate culture where they think of themselves as, we're the empire state. You have to come to us. Be here.
Yeah.
And so the attitude, and you see this in law, you see this in laws that are proposed, is we're going to license something different, or we're going to regulate something different. You got to do business with us because we're in New York, and you got to. Oh,
by the way, even if you follow all those rules, we may fine you later.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, that's right. That's true. Yeah. You do ex post facto attacks on people, for instance, in the energy sector with the Climate Change Superfund. So there's an attitude that is sort of like this, 1910 attitude where you got to go hang out on physically on Wall Street if you want to do any business, and that's just not the case anymore. We're a big state. We're a wealthy state still, but we're increasingly a state where you don't have to come to us.
Right.
And when we make it difficult to enter our market, there's more and more people that are like, well, I just won't.
Right.
I won't enter that market. I won't put a business physically in New York, or I won't deal with you in a way that I would have if the regulations and the laws were different. And so the questioner, the viewer, gets to an important point, which is we are in a position now in New York where when things are up, we go up, but we go up 2 when we could go up 10.
Right.
And when things are down, things don't recover as quickly, especially in the area of the worlds that we live in.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons that people in the southern tier vote the way they do, and I think correctly, and vote for Republicans, is they see that the results from Democrat control in Albany have not benefited them economically, and in some cases where we can be an afterthought to some of the folks from downstate. I try and fight against that every day, and so do the other members of the state legislative delegation from the southern tier. But when you make either bad rules or rules that are tailored toward downstate, we pay the price in the southern tier. And there's a reason I still live here. There's a reason I'm raising my family in Steuben County, but there's also a reason I decided to run for the state legislature.
Yeah, exactly.
And spend my professional life trying to fight against this silliness.
All right, so one last thing, and then I got to get to Lawler. We haven't talked about Lawler, but I'm talking about, this person wanted to kind of reiterate, and I'm talking about the licensing system. It's been broken for years. Automation that doesn't work, for example, tags, no tags, computer systems constantly down, paper, no paper.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure about that as much. I haven't ran into that.
So we've got broad legal issues with the DC. We got regulatory issues. This is just actually physically, I'm trying to comply and get a license, and things are bouncing back. Yeah, that can be extraordinarily frustrating, and that would be what I would classify as a particular constituent case. And whether it's me or Phil or Tom or Chris, a friend in Chemung County, as I know you got a lot of viewers in Chemung County, that's what our offices are here for. Is if you're having a particular issue, hey, I can't get this thing to print out right. I can't get the website to work right. Call your state legislative office wherever you happen to live, because again, we've got people across 4 different assembly districts in this particular media market. And we've got, obviously, I think almost everybody would have Mr. O'Mara as their state senator, who's awesome, and his staff is awesome. So when you run into a problem like this, where it's not working right with a state agency, please, please, please don't just bang your head against the wall. Call either your assemblyman or your senator. That is what our constituent service offices are there for. And similarly, you and I are former congressional staff. Right. If it's a federal agency, if it's the post office or the VA or Social Security or Medicare or something like that, if it's something federal, please call Mr. Langworthy, or if you're in certain parts of northern Schuyler, Steuben, Ms. Tenney, and they would help you as much. We get a lot of attention on the laws that we vote on and the policies that we're implementing, and that's very important. But a huge part of our job is dealing with these constituent service issues, whether it's an individual person having a problem, or a municipality or a county having an issue, a school district, sort of the more broad constituent service. But that's at least half our job is dealing with that stuff.
Well, I'm going to take a short break because I'm going to keep people hooked because we want to talk about Mike Lawler when we come back. But keep those questions coming in. We will jump ahead to your questions before we ask my questions because they're more important. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio, and this is the Steuben County Office for the Aging section of our program, where we interview amazing guests like Assemblyman and former Congressman and current Steuben County Republican Committee Chair Joe Sempolinski. All right, speaking, let's put that last hat on. As head of the Republican Party in Steuben County, Mike Lawler, I don't know. I'm not going to ask if you were surprised or not. This has just been kind of a wild roller coaster ride with everybody.
Yeah. As far as who's going to run for governor. So the status there, and that's where I would start, is just the status at the moment as we speak, on a nice morning here in the summer.
Could change tomorrow.
Right, because the way I phrase it that way is exactly right. Because I could get in the car and have an email that somebody else is running for this or that. But as I said here, Congressman Lawler has decided to run for re-election to the Congress and not to run for governor of New York. That was announced, first thing in the morning yesterday. Mm-hmm. And, the reason I would say I'm not completely surprised by that, although Mike had been sort of doing his due diligence to look at running for governor, was there are only 3 seats in the U.S. House that are held by a Republican, and Harris won the seat in the presidential election.
Right.
Mike sits in one of them.
Right.
So obviously, the president has been very focused on holding the House in the midterm, because he doesn't want to get impeached another 10 times if we lose the House. It's important to not only his policy agenda, but so we don't have a return to silliness. And so one of the things you look at when you're trying to hold a majority is what are tough seats to hold, where maybe there's an incumbent who's been there for a couple terms who fits the district well and has built up trust and name recognition and a track record with their constituency. And if they run, we probably hold the seat. And if somebody else tries to come in cold, even if they're good and we have a good bench in that part of the state, it becomes much harder.
Right.
And certainly Mike's seat would be the archetype of that type of seat, where you've got a very swing seat. He's in the lower Hudson Valley. He's been elected to it twice. He was in the state assembly one term earlier in an area that overlaps with that. So he's on 3 terms of serving in a legislative capacity in that area. And the expectation is he'll have a significant race. There's 7 Democrats have already announced
I
in
thought
that
it was
seat.
7, yeah.
And there's rumors about more.
Why not? Let's make it a dozen.
So you take something that is, with Mike running, Mike's the favorite.
Right.
And if Mike doesn't run, it becomes much more difficult. And I'm sure that was part of the calculation. I'm sure that was discussions with the speaker and the president and whatever.
Well, and
it's at the tip of the spear for holding the House majority.
Well, and Trump had endorsed him for
for re-election.
Yeah.
Right,
so
exactly. That was sort of a signal about where things want to go. So I've known Mike for 16 years. I've known Mike, and I knew him as a staffer. I knew him as a party official staffer, a party staffer. I knew him as a state assemblyman when I was an assembly staffer, and then I've known him a long time, and I think he is a very good fit for that district, and I think he'll win running for re-election. And that, just the fact I'm saying I think Mike will hold that seat, that statement significantly increases the chances that we hold the United States House of Representatives as a Republican majority. Now, that appears to clear the field very substantially, if not totally, for Congresswoman Stefanik if she chooses to run. Her statement yesterday is that she is going to decide in November.
That's late. You don't have to say it. I'm saying it.
Yeah,
I like Lee Stefanik.
Yeah.
But I mean, Zeldin had already declared
April. He was April of the off
year.
year. Yeah.
So it's not knocking her. She's got to make her own decisions.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. It's just, boy, November seems really late.
I would have to, defer to her as her timeline as far as I don't know exactly the background there, but I will put it this way. I am very pleased that it looks increasingly like we're not going to have a primary, whether you're somebody that was more Elise or more Mike. Having those two run against each other would have been very negative to whomsoever.
Yeah, and I think they both
felt that way.
They both at one point had said they don't want
that.
Yeah,
and neither of them really wanted to have that because they knew it wasn't going to be good for either of them and it wasn't going to be good for the party. No. So I'm glad that it looks like we've, at this moment, and again, things change every day, we've sort of avoided that scenario. I'm hopeful that we can rally around a consensus nominee for governor as soon as possible. Yeah. And that's a situation where, as you pointed out, where Lee getting in early was a benefit to him.
Huge benefit. But the nice thing with Stefanik, if you believe the polls, where some of them show that she's in
polls are very strong, and her fundraising is very strong.
Yeah, so she has a little bit of advantage Zeldin didn't have, because Zeldin needed that time to get his name out there more.
It is undeniable. Elise's name recognition with your rank and file voter is higher today than Lee's was when he got in the race. I think your average person now knows who Lee is, but when he got in, certainly upstate, not as much. So she has a little bit of leeway as far as, and she's also sitting on a big pile of fundraising money.
Yeah, and she's good.
She's not starting from zero with that. Lee wasn't either, but I think we're talking like 15 times as much money Elise has than when Lee had some money getting in. Yeah. So there's certain advantages there. So I am hopeful and eager for us to rally around a consensus nominee. I think that's what's going to happen. And certainly Governor Hochul is very vulnerable. You've already got a situation where her own lieutenant governor is primarying her. And I am expecting that this to be a situation where people around the state, obviously Republicans, but independents and moderate Democrats go, is this really where we want the state to go? Do we really want a party that nominates Zohran Mamdani as the Democratic nominee for New York City? Is that the party we want to continue to be running the state assembly, Senate, and governor? I think more and more there's going to be people of all political persuasions, center left, center right, to say, we got to move in a different direction. And I think we have as good a chance as we've had in decades to win the governor's race. And I am eager to be part of that process.
Now, as you know, because you've seen the comments and the questions that we received, we got a brilliant audience. A lot of people have been saying, because I would say if I just took like an anecdotal poll, the majority of viewers on this show wanted Elise Stefanik, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But just
sure.
I'm not saying
I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah. But they've also said that when they get their inflation rebate check, it's going right to her campaign. Isn't that a great? Because let's face it, the inflation rebate check, I'm not gonna not take it, but it's not a windfall. It's not like you're changing your vacation plans and going to Disney or something.
There's a lot of gimmickry there.
Yes. So maybe that's right. Keep in mind, they're going to come in October. Yeah. If she makes the announcement in November, just keep it in mind. But anyway, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio, and Joe Sempolinski is in that studio. Comment from a viewer: didn't I hear someplace that Wall Street is beginning to move south, more specifically Florida? You do see a lot of that. And did you see?
Yep, I think that's with the current situation in Albany. If that doesn't change come next year, hopefully, that you're going to see a lot more of that. Sadly.
I loved when Cuomo, they claim it was a joke, but Cuomo says, if Mamdani wins, I'm moving to Florida. Did you see what DeSantis said? Don't New York or Florida.
That's right. Can we have Mamdani not win and Cuomo move to Florida?
Yeah.
Is that a possible?
How do we move that system around?
Curtis Lee would have won the election.
I know. But boy, you've been busy. First of all, been doing a lot of town halls.
Yes.
We've been seeing that. And how's that been going?
Good. We've done at this point, I've hosted a town hall myself, one in each county. Cattaraugus, Allegheny, Steuben, and I put it to get the easiest for people, the largest municipality that I represent in each of those areas. So we were Olean, Wellsville, Canasteo, which is the populating center of the portion of Sioux Bend that I represent. And I've got another one scheduled end of August in Gowanda, which is the farthest opposite corner. Canasteo is the farthest east, Gowanda is the farthest sort of northwest. And most recently, Senator Borrello, who overlaps with the western side of my district, he had a town hall in Ellicottville that I sort of co-piloted with him, where it was his town hall, and they let me stand up there and answer questions.
Someone did a report on it, and I was reading it. And it sounded like
we had the local newspaper there covering it, and all 4 of those events that have already happened, we've had good turnout. We've had lively questions. It's not one of these things where only a few people show up and you're begging for questions.
Yeah.
We've had
Anybody else?
We've had a lot of questions, and they fit the different areas. Because what's a big issue in Canasteo may not be something that's a big issue in Olean or what have you, when I have a district physically as large as what I have. So that's why it's important to get out in the district, whether it's town halls or anything else, because when you have a district that's not 3 neighborhoods in New York City like some of my colleagues have, you actually have to really find out what's going on in each of those smaller or medium-sized communities.
Have you found that because of like the national topics, do you get a lot of national topics? Or
depends on the group. In Olean, we had a bunch of national questions. In the other ones, it's been 1 or 2, but a lot of state and local stuff. So it depends if there's been a lot of state or local issues happening in that area. But again, every town hall's different, and because every community is different, and it's also affected by who shows up or what have you. So I go in there, not knowing exactly what I'm going to be asked, just like when I come on Frankly Speaking.
Exactly.
And we don't have a teleprompter or anything.
No.
And I just give people my assessment of a question as best I can.
And as someone that looks at the media coverage of things, and I've been following your coverage, you got a lot of great coverage because it's such an important thing that you're doing with the Organ Donation Fairness Act. And I was impressed with how much coverage you got.
Yeah, I was happy with that. And this is something I've worked on for a long time. When I was in Congress, there's a federal version of this bill that I was a co-sponsor of.
Right.
And so where that bill comes from is in a lot of jurisdictions in the United States, it is still legal to discriminate against somebody because of a disability when they need an organ donation. So if you need a heart transplant, just because you have Down syndrome doesn't mean you shouldn't get that heart transplant.
Right.
And there are some states, and liberal states and conservative states, that have said, no, we're going to ban that discrimination.
Yeah.
There's obviously most types of discrimination when it comes to organ donation are already banned, thank God. But this is one that's not as explicitly banned. Again, there's a federal law that has passed the House. At this point, when I was there, I was a co-sponsor in the House, passed the House, sitting in the Senate. That would ban that practice nationwide, but also there's an effort at the state level to ban it. And so this is something that's Senator Ort, the Republican leader in the Senate, carries the bill. And there hadn't been, for quite some time, a Assembly companion bill. And I said, all right, I'll be the person to step up and do that. Because as I think everybody knows, I got a daughter with Down syndrome. So I'm very passionate about this. And so when I was co-sponsor of the federal version, that was something that's very bipartisan. This is not a partisan issue. Previously in the legislature, as people have introduced and worked on this bill, it's been a bipartisan thing, and I'm hoping this is something where I can work with my Democrat colleagues on. But it's something I'm very passionate about. When you need a transplant, it shouldn't matter whether you have a developmental disability or not.
No. Well, that's why we're glad that you're out there, even though you don't always know how it's going to go in Albany.
Yeah.
You're still doing what's right.
That's right.
And that's got to be. We were talking with Sheriff Adler yesterday how frustrating it must be sometimes to go into work for you and Phil because it's kind of like you're not going to defeat it, but the one party rule is one party rule.
It could be frustrating in Albany. The part of the job, as I talked at the outset, at home,
that's
very rewarding.
Oh yeah, of course.
And being out in the community, I came from being a district staffer. That's my training, my background, and so the part of the job at home, is
that's great.
That's just what's natural to me. In Albany, some people need a attitude adjustment as far as where their perspective is.
All right. Now, before we talk about local and some other things going on, who do you think in your lifetime you have sworn as much as Hunter Biden does in 1 hour? Mathematically.
I did watch some of the clips on social media, and that man knows a lot about crack.
Yes. Did you watch? You
He
can
has
watch
some-
all 3 hours.
No,
Be careful. Don't
no,
use. By the way, don't use any words that Hunter Biden used. Remember, we are not a podcast.
I can say crack, right?
Yeah. But I couldn't believe it.
I mean, I would imagine that some of the feelings that he pointed out toward the Democrat establishment are now returning toward him.
Yes.
That wasn't exactly a good day for the Democrats to have that put out there. It is funny. I saw one person on social media point out that it is interesting because he has a very similar voice and cadence to his father.
Yeah.
So it sounds almost like
kinda
a young Joe Biden telling you how to make crack. You know, it was
very weird.
Hunter Biden is the gift that just keeps on giving to the Republican
And
Party.
even the Democrats were saying that in response. So I want to move on from it, but they were even saying like, "Please, just go away."
I am in the Nancy Reagan camp. Say no to crack. Kids.
Exactly.
Don't do drugs. Just say no.
Don't do drugs. All right, let's get to the local stuff. So primaries are over, so you kind of see where things have shaped up.
Yep.
Everything looking good. Everything. What are you thinking?
I'm excited about the team that the people have picked. And, that's how we do things in Steuben County, where the people pick in the primary. And now it's the role of the party to do the best we can to try and get those folks across the finish line. And we've got contested elections in City of Hornell, City of Corning, in, a couple of the county legislative districts in southeastern Steuben, the Irwin district, which you're very familiar with, and the Town of Corning, Hornby, Caton district. There will be contested general elections. So I encourage everybody to get out and vote for our Republican team in the local elections. What happens in 2025 in November sets the table for 2026. We talked about Elise Stefanik in the previous segment. One of the things she's been very vocal about is supporting county and local races this year around the state, and assuming that's leading up to a something bigger for her next year. And so I applaud that and support that, and it is something where a single vote can matter, and I've seen a single vote matter in local races. So please support our ticket if you're in those particular areas that have a contested general election. There are some other down ballot town contested elections as well.
And it's probably the most exciting time of the year. It's early this year too, and that is the Steuben County Fair, where Republicans set up a booth. And then now I don't know if you remember this, but I texted this to you right after the program last year, because you and I maybe spent a little too much time on this program talking about this. Do you remember this one? I sent you a picture. An astute viewer, a great viewer, sent me this shirt.
That's it.
Oh, there we go. Eat, sleep, pig racing.
We on this particular program.
I'm gonna be wearing this at the booth.
You
by the
should.
way. Yeah.
And sometimes when I'm supposed to be working the booth, I'm out watching the pig races.
Exactly.
That happens.
Yes.
So if there's nobody at the booth, I might be out the pig races. On this program and its radio predecessor, you and I spent a lot of time talking about pig racing at the fair. I love the fair. I took my kids to the Allegheny County Fair this past weekend. Cattaraugus Fair is coming up next week, and then Steuben is in mid-August. And I'll be at all of them. I can't get enough. I love the county fairs, and I've been coming to the Steuben County Fair since I was little.
Yeah.
And going to the pig races, and the Republican, as far as I know, the Republican booth has been that booth for
as long as I remember,
centuries at this point.
Yeah.
And I love going and meeting the people, and I have great interactions with the folks in Bath that come to the fair, and people come from all over. Give their political opinions when they stop by the booth, and learn about our candidates, and come to the Republican booth at the fair, see the pig races, get some of the root beer.
Not root beer. It's not the summer until the root beer. You watch the pig races and call it a day.
It is a great part of life in Steuben County is going to the Bath Fair.
Yes. So the Republican booth will be there. It's the 12th, August 12th through the 17th, which seems a little early this year, but I could be wrong. This summer went so quick, Joe.
June was so rainy and then too hot and everything, and July's been great, but it seems like the first month of the summer didn't feel like the summer.
No. So how can people get involved if they want to, not just with the fair? It can't always just be fair.
You can come to the fair. We have sign-ups for volunteers at the fair. That's a great place to sign up.
Register to vote, too.
You can register to vote at the fair. You can get information about all of our candidates, including myself at the fair.
Which this is a good year because it's tough to get that information.
That's right. You can learn about you're the people that are already represented. You're going into next year, and so I'm excited about that. But also, reach out through our Facebook, through my email, joe.sempolinski@gmail.com is my personal email. If people want to get involved, we've had people just do that and join the committee and what have you. So we're through the petition process, we're through the primary process, but now going into the fall, we want to make sure that our team, our Republican ticket, up and down the ballot, from Supreme Court judge would be the top this year, down to town issues, county in between. That those are all elected, and we've got a great ticket.
Well, great. Joe, thanks for giving us so much time. We got one last comment from a viewer during our Student Senior Services Fund section where we read viewer comments. Jack says, thank you, Joe, for being a regular guest on Frankly Speaking. Love your take on everything, and no, I'm not a relative.
That's my joke. My mother. Yeah, right. So Jack
is not your mother.
Not my mother, and not my cousin, or whatever. That's honest commentary from the folks. Yes, and I appreciate it very much.
I'm sure there's a lot of people. I got to say this time, and I'm almost out of time, but the questions have been really great from being from local, really local to state.
I love the mix, actually, and it makes the show more interesting, I think, for the viewers, where it's more interactive. And now I can sit here and talk about whatever you want, but it's better if I'm talking about what the people in the real world want to talk about.
Couldn't agree more. Well, Joe, thanks again. We'll talk to you in about a month. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Join us every weekday morning at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox. We'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early. Look forward to it already.